Deep within the heart of the whispering woods, where the ferns grew as tall as umbrellas and the moss felt like velvet underfoot, lived Leo. Leo was a fox of unusual spirit. While most foxes were known for being sly or cunning, Leo was known for his curiosity. He had a coat the colour of a burnt orange sunset, a tail with a tip as white as a mountain peak, and eyes that shimmered like polished amber. Leo lived in a cosy den tucked beneath the roots of an ancient, gnarled oak tree. It was a happy place, filled with dried lavender and smooth river stones he had collected. But as autumn turned to winter, a problem began to grow in the whispering woods. The sun, once bold and lingering, began to retire earlier and earlier. By 4 in the afternoon, the gold turned to grey, and by 5, the woods were swallowed by a darkness so thick it felt like a heavy blanket. One evening, Leo stepped out of his den to find his friend, Pip the rabbit, shivering behind a mushroom. "Why are you hiding, Pip?" Leo asked gently. "The shadows, Leo," Pip whispered, his long ears twitching. "When the light goes away, the woods feel empty, like the trees have forgotten who we are. I'm too scared to find my clover patch in the dark." Up above, Barnaby the owl let out a mournful hoot. "I see well enough," Barnaby called down, "but the others stay hidden. The forest has lost its song. Everyone is too afraid of the gloom to play or talk." Leo looked around. The forest, usually vibrant with the chatter of squirrels and the rustle of hedgehogs, was silent. His heart ached for his friends. There must be a way to bring a piece of the light back, Leo thought. Not a fire that's too hot and scary, but a soft light, a brave light. Leo remembered a story his grandmother used to tell him about the Silver Lake, located at the very edge of the world, where the mountains touched the sky. It was said that on the night of the great frost moon, the moon leaned down so close to the water that it left its reflection behind, not just an image, but a physical glow that stayed in the water like a liquid pearl. "If I can find the moon's reflection," Leo declared to the empty clearing, "I can bring it back in a jar. It will be a nightlight for the whole forest." The other animals peered out from their burrows. "It's too far, Leo," chirped a sparrow. "A great frost moon is tonight," warned the squirrels. But Leo tucked his chin in and puffed out his chest. "If I don't go, the shadows will only get longer. I'll be back before the first light of dawn." Leo's journey began as the last sliver of sun vanished. The forest was different at night. The trees, which seemed friendly by day, looked like giant stone guardians. As he walked, the wind began to whistle through the branches. Whoosh, whoosh. "It's just the air," Leo told himself. "The air is just stretching its lungs." He encountered a fork in the path where the shadows seemed to twist. Suddenly, a tiny light flickered near the ground. It was a cluster of glimmercaps mushrooms that gave off a faint, pulsating blue light. Follow the glow. The mushrooms seemed to hum. Leo realized that even in the deepest dark, there were small witnesses of light. He felt a spark of courage. He wasn't just walking through the dark, he was walking with it. By midnight, Leo reached the base of the cragged mountains. There, resting by a stream that hummed a low tune, was Sealers the tortoise. Sealers was so old that small saplings grew from the moss on his shell. "Little fox," Sealers rumbled, his voice like grinding stones. "Why do you run when the world is meant to be sleeping?" "I seek the moon's reflection, Sealers. My friends are afraid, and I want to bring them the light." Sealers blinked slowly. "The reflection is not a thing you catch with pores, Leo. It is a thing you catch with your heart." But if you wish to see it, you must climb the path of mirrors. Just remember, the moon only shines for those who aren't trying to outrun themselves. Leo didn't quite understand, but he thanked Sealers and began the steep climb. The air grew cold, and his breath turned into white mist. After hours of climbing, the trees thinned out, and the ground levelled into a high plateau. In the centre lay the silver lake. It was perfectly round, and so still it looked like a sheet of polished glass. Above, the great frost moon was at its zenith, huge, white, and brilliant. It hung so low that Leo felt he could jump and touch its cold, cratered surface. Leo crept to the water's edge. He looked down and gasped. There, floating just an inch below the surface, was a glowing orb of pure, liquid moonlight. It pulsed with a soft, rhythmic light, like a heartbeat. He reached out a paw. As he touched the water, ripples spread out, and the light began to swirl. It didn't feel like water. It felt like silk. As Leo's paw touched the surface of the silver lake, the world seemed to hold its breath. The moon's reflection wasn't just a flat image, it was alive. Tiny droplets of liquid light began to cling to Leo's fur, turning his orange coat into a shimmering coat of gold and silver. He pulled a small, clear glass jar from the satchel one he had found near the human village long ago. Carefully, he dipped the jar into the glowing water. Instead of heavy liquid filling the glass, the jar filled with a swirling, luminous mist. It hummed a low, musical note that vibrated against his chest. "I have it," Leo whispered, his amber eyes wide. "I actually have it." But as he turned to leave the plateau, the wind shifted. The great frost moon began to slip behind a thick bank of clouds. Suddenly, the brilliant light of the lake faded, and the mountain path ahead became a jagged maze of shadows. The journey home would not be as easy as the journey there. To get back to the Whispering Woods quickly, Leo had to take a shortcut through the Cave of Whispers. It was a place most animals avoided because the wind caught in the stalactites and sounded like voices. As Leo entered, the light from his jar pushed back the darkness, but only just enough to see a few steps ahead. "Why are you here, little fox?" The wind seemed to sigh. "The light doesn't belong in the dark. Give it back to the sky." Leo's heart hammered against his ribs. He felt very small. A large shadow stretched across the cave wall. It looked like a giant monster with sharp claws. Leo froze, his tail fluffing up to twice its size. But then, he looked closely at the light in his jar. He noticed that the shadow was just his own reflection, cast by the very light he was carrying. He realized that fear often comes from our own shadows, not from the things hiding in the dark. He took a deep breath, held the jar high, and the monster on the wall grew smaller and disappeared as he walked toward it. Halfway through the cave, the light from Leo's jar revealed a pair of glowing eyes, not magical moon eyes, but the yellow eyes of a predator. A large mountain lynx sat perched on a rock. "That is a bright bauble you have there," the lynx purred, its voice deep and gravelly. Leo trembled, but stood his ground. "It's not a bauble, it's the moon's reflection. I'm taking it to the forest animals so they won't be afraid anymore." The lynx tilted its head. "I've lived in these mountains for many winters. The dark is my home. Why should they fear it?" "Because they feel alone in it," Leo replied softly. "When you can't see your friends, it's easy to forget they are there." The lynx was silent for a long time. Then, it jumped down from the rock. "The path ahead is blocked by a rockfall from the frost. My eyes see the hidden trails. I will lead you, little fox, but only because I want to see if a jar of light can truly change a forest. With the lynx leading the way, they exited the cave and reached the frozen stream at the foot of the mountain. The ice was thin and groaned under the weight of the winter. "We must cross quickly," the lynx warned. Leo stepped onto the ice. Siararak. He slipped, and the jar tumbled from his pores, sliding across the ice toward a dark hole in the frozen water. "No," Leo cried. He didn't think about his own safety. He lunged forward, sliding on his belly. His claws scraped against the slick surface. Just as the jar was about to tip into the freezing black water, Leo caught it with the tip of his white tail, curling it tight. The lynx pulled him back to the bank by his scruff. Leo was shivering, his fur wet and cold, but he clutched the jar to his chest. The light inside glowed warmer, as if responding to his bravery. As they reached the edge of the whispering woods, the lynx stopped. "I go no further. The trees here are too crowded for my liking." "Go on, Leo. Your friends are waiting." Leo thanked the lynx and ran. He ran past the glimmercaps, past the old oak, and into the central clearing where the animals were huddled together in the gloom. He climbed onto the great stump and unscrewed the lid of the jar. He didn't just let the light sit there. He blew into the jar, and the moon's reflection shattered into 1,000 tiny, floating sparks. They drifted upward, latching onto the undersides of leaves and the tips of branches. The entire clearing began to glow with a soft, silver blue radiance, just like a dream. As the silver spark settled upon the leaves, the whispering woods underwent a transformation. The oppressive silence that usually accompanied the winter nights was broken by a soft, collective gasp. One by one, little noses poked out of burrows, and wings unfurled from the safety of hollow logs. It's beautiful," whispered Pit the rabbit, stepping cautiously into the clearing. The light didn't cast the harsh, scary shadows of a campfire. Instead, it made the forest look like it was underwater, bathed in a gentle, luminescent tide. "Look," chirped a sparrow. "I can see the berries on the holly bush. I can see the path to the stream." Leo stood atop the great stump, his fur still damp from the frozen mountain air, but his heart was burning bright. "The moon didn't want us to be afraid," Leo told them, his voice ringing through the trees. "She left this for us so we could remember that even when the sun goes to sleep, the world is still here. We are still here." For the first time in many winters, the animals didn't retreat to their lonely nests. Barnaby the owl flew down, not to hunt, but to gather fallen nuts and seeds. The squirrels brought out their hidden stores of acorns, and the hedgehogs found the sweetest winter roots. They laid it all out on a mossy log. It was a midnight feast, lit by the very soul of the moon. They told stories, laughed at the wind, and for a few hours, the scary dark was simply a beautiful backdrop for their friendship. However, the forest was an ancient place, and where there is great light, the old shadows sometimes grow jealous. Deep in the thickets of the forbidden brambles, a cold, smoky mist began to stir. This was the shadow blight, a lingering remnant of the deepest winter gloom that fed on fear.